put feet in my mouth sometimes, you know what I mean? I'm out here. I mean, shit, everything changes with time. Like, you can't.
From Lil P's struggles with pills, to Leo's tragic on-camera overdose, and Indian Red Boy's shocking IG Live murder, we're diving into the 15 most shocking final recordings of rappers, starting with the recent tragedy involving Julio. It was June 23rd, 2024. Julio, whose real name was Charles Jones, had just turned 26. A Florida rapper from Tampa, he was known for his emotional yet raw trap sound, a voice that resonated with millions of fans on Spotify. His rise began in 2017, and by the time of his death, he'd worked with big names like Zaytoven, Blueface, and G Herbo. His album Resurrection, released in April 2024, showcased a resilience born of survival. He'd faced multiple attempts on his life, endured gunshot wounds as a teen, and survived behind bars. Yet, despite all odds, he emerged a star, widely regarded as one of the most talented voices in the game. Julio's lyrics were often steeped in harsh realities. By the age of 20, he had already lost 15 friends to violence. He carried these wounds, both physical and emotional, through his music. Even so, his circle was no stranger to street conflict. He was known for standing on business and remained sharp, careful, and ready. But even the most careful can fall prey to unforeseen dangers. One such danger came when a nurse at a hospital where Julio had been treated leaked his personal information online. Julio filed a lawsuit against both the nurse and the hospital, but his life was tragically cut short before the case could reach a resolution. Just shy of a year later, on his own birthday weekend, Julio would lose his life. Leading up to that fatal night on June 22nd, Julio was active on social media, inviting friends and fans to his birthday bash in Tampa. Videos of the party buzzed across X, formerly Twitter, and Instagram, where Julio showcased the lively celebration and urged his crew to come through. Tragically, that same festive spirit would be met with violence before the weekend ended. As fans tuned in to Julio's lively birthday festivities, so did his enemies. Amid the celebration, tensions escalated. Eventually, Julio and his crew were kicked out of their Tampa Airbnb for exceeding the occupancy limits. The party then shifted to a nearby Home 2 Suites by Hilton. While Julio and a few of his friends relaxed in two parked cars outside the hotel, a nightmare unfolded. Suddenly, a group of armed assailants pulled up and unleashed a storm of bullets, leaving devastation in their wake. Julio and 3 others were hit, but Julio alone succumbed to his injuries. Images of his battered face soon flooded social media, stirring grief among fans and friends alike. This shocking loss set the stage for another tragic event, one that would unfold live before the eyes of thousands. On July 8, 2021, at around 4:10 p.m., Los Angeles rapper Zare Rivera, known as Indian Red Boy, met a brutal end while live streaming on Instagram. The 21-year-old artist was sitting in a car in Hawthorne, sharing laughs with his friend Capone. Both seemed carefree, enjoying the moment, when the unimaginable occurred. Indian Red Boy had allegedly drawn the ire of rival gang members after dissing Nipsey Hussle. While Nipsey was affiliated with the Rollin' 60s Crips, Indian Red Boy was reportedly linked to the Bloods. Following Nipsey's tragic death outside his Marathon clothing store in South Central LA on March 31, 2019, a mural was painted in his honor. However, tensions flared when the mural was vandalized twice in a week, splattered with red paint. Rumors swirled that Indian Red Boy had a hand in it. That fateful day, Indian Red Boy parked behind a gated apartment complex on Chadron Avenue. As he chatted on IG Live, a shooter suddenly appeared, firing a barrage of at least 12 bullets through the car window. Red Boy's smile vanished as he tried to shield himself, but the onslaught left him slumped in his seat. What followed was horrifying. The live stream captured his final moments as Red Boy struggled to speak while his friend desperately asked for his location. Clips of the incident were swiftly taken down from most platforms, but not before bloggers and YouTube channels preserved the harrowing footage. With over 16,000 followers on Instagram and a rising career ahead, Indian Red Boy's life was extinguished in a burst of violence, a chilling reminder of the dangers that often shadowed young artists in the streets. May 16, 2024, Rising teen rapper R.I. Lo Huncho, real name Riley Freeman II, was tragically found dead at home in Virginia. Known for his raw sound and relatable lyrics, Relo had built a steady following among young listeners, releasing at least 10 tracks and amassing over 2,000 monthly Spotify streams. Some of his most popular songs included Money, GTA, Bag Talk, and La La La. Shortly before his death, he had dropped a track called Geddies that was just starting to gain traction. Relo's story was one of perseverance. Raised by his single mother, Monica Savage, he grew up without many of the advantages others took for granted. Monica was his unwavering supporter, standing by him as he pursued his dreams. But on that fateful day, Monica wasn't there to protect him. Relo had been sharing clips on Instagram, flexing with a handgun and recording a TikTok video off-screen. When authorities arrived, they found Riley's life had already slipped away. The details surrounding his death remain uncertain, but his online persona hinted at a possible connection to street culture. With over 27,000 Instagram followers, he often posted content that suggested he might have had some affiliations. Even in one of his TikTok videos, he flashed what appeared to be the same firearm he was later found with. It was clear he had been holding on to that piece for some time. In the wake of his passing, Relo's crew launched a GoFundMe campaign to cover funeral expenses and provide support for his grieving mother. With a goal of $15,000, they quickly raised over $8,000, helping Monica lay her son to rest. The money eased some of the financial strain, but no amount of cash could fill the void left by Riley's death. The tragedy of Relo's loss is compounded by the senseless nature of these events. It's a stark reminder of how fleeting life can be, especially for young artists trying to navigate both fame and their surroundings. Relo's music was just beginning to make waves, but now the world will never hear the full extent of his potential. On the day of his death, Tentacion, also known as Yassé Onfroy, spent nearly 30 minutes inside Riva Motorsports with his uncle Leonard Kerr. As they left in his BMW i8, a Dodge SUV with 3 men inside pulled up, cutting him off and blocking the path. 2 of the attackers, Michael Boatwright and Trayvon Newsome, exited the vehicle, armed and ready. They confronted X, demanding his possessions. After a brief struggle, Newsome struck X and took his chain. In the chaos, X's uncle fled, leaving the car door open. Newsome returned to grab X's Louis Vuitton bag, reportedly containing $50,000. But Boatwright wasn't finished. He approached X in the driver's seat, looked him directly in the eyes, and fired multiple shots, ending the young rapper's life on the spot. The cold and calculated attack left fans reeling. In the immediate aftermath, Broward County law enforcement offered a $3,000 reward for information leading to the killers. Initially, suspicions fell on local Florida rappers Soldier Kid and Soldier JoJo, primarily due to some questionable social media posts. However, those rumors were dispelled once the actual perpetrators, Boatwright, Newsome, and Dedrick Williams, were identified and arrested. The 3 men faced charges including first-degree murder and armed robbery, ultimately receiving life sentences without the possibility of parole. While X's killers were brought to justice, the individuals responsible for the death of FBG Cash remain at large. FBG Cash, a Chicago drill rapper affiliated with the Flyboy Gang, FBG, met his tragic end in 2022. His death followed the high-profile murder of his crewmate, FBG Duck, Carlton Weekly, in 2020, which police had labeled as a targeted gang hit. Duck's killing sparked a wave of community outcry and fears of escalating violence. Despite these tensions, just 2 years later, Cash was also taken out, reportedly due to ongoing disputes surrounding a mural of fellow Chicago artist King Von. Months before his death, FBG Cash made waves when he appeared on the No Jumper podcast. During the interview, he discussed a controversial photo he had taken in front of King Von's mural at the Chicago apartment complex where Von grew up. In that same interview, Cash also shared details of a text exchange he had with Lil Durk, further fanning the flames of existing rivalries. The public airing of these private conversations and the disrespectful photo only heightened tensions, leaving many to speculate that these actions may have contributed to his untimely death. Did you hit him up? Yeah, things escalated quickly. Lil Durk fired back at FBG Cash in his track Computer Murderers with the line, "Sneaking pics by Von Mural like Lil Bro won't come out and spin." Just 3 months after that diss, FBG Cash met a tragic end. At 5:32 a.m. on June 10, 2022, Cash was sitting in his car with a woman when a black sedan rolled up beside them. An unknown assailant stepped out, opened fire, and struck Cash multiple times. He was rushed to Christ Hospital, but he didn't make it. The woman with him was also hit, but survived her injuries. Rumors swirled that O-Block, the infamous Chicago faction, might have been involved. However, just as O-Block was linked to his demise, they too had taken a major loss not long before, when their biggest star, King Von, was gunned down outside a nightclub. King Von, born Davon Daquan Bennett, was a Chicago native who came up in the streets with the Black Disciples, particularly in the notorious O-Block. As a teen, Von was deeply involved in the life that shaped his city's drill music scene. He reportedly earned his reputation through countless street altercations, though many of the more extreme claims, like being a rap serial killer, remain unverified. What's clear is that Von's connections to the streets brought both notoriety and danger. In 2018, Von's career took a major turn when Lil Durk signed him to OTF, Only the Family. With Durk's guidance, Von released Crazy Story, a gripping street anthem that catapulted him into the spotlight. The song's raw storytelling, combined with Durk's endorsement, made Von a rising star almost overnight. His growing fame didn't fully distance him from legal troubles. He was arrested several times, even after finding success. Yet every scrape with the law seemed to amplify his mystique, making him one of the most compelling voices in Chicago's drill movement. Von's transition from the streets to stardom seemed to be on track. He and Lil Durk toured together, dropping hit after hit, and it appeared that Von was leaving his past behind. But the streets rarely let go so easily. On November 6, 2020, after a night at Atlanta's Opium nightclub, Von and his crew headed to Monaco Hookah Lounge. Earlier in the night, Von had been recorded partying with his team, his last live moment captured on video. The peace of that night soon shattered. Surveillance footage would later show Von embroiled in a heated altercation outside Monaco. It was a confrontation that would turn deadly and leave the rap world mourning the loss of yet another talented artist cut down before his time. It all went down in a flash. Quando Rondo and King Von were already throwing hands when things turned deadly. As the fight heated up, Quando's associate Lil Tim stepped in and shot Von, ending his life on the spot. Chaos erupted. One of Von's friends returned fire, and even the police started shooting from multiple directions. The scene was pure mayhem. In the end, multiple people were hit, and Von, along with 2 others, lost their lives. Von was later confirmed dead at the hospital. Another tragedy that rocked the music world was the loss of Lil Peep. Born Gustav Elijah R., Lil Peep rose to fame on SoundCloud with his haunting single Star Shopping in 2015. His mixtapes Lil Peep Part 1 and Live Forever cemented his place as a groundbreaking artist, blending emo, punk, and rap influences. However, as Peep's star ascended, so did his struggles with mental health and substance abuse. He openly discussed his battles with depression, anxiety, and bipolar disorder, yet despite his openness, he never pursued proper treatment. Instead, he turned to self-medication, leaning heavily on drugs like cocaine, ecstasy, and Xanax. Lil Peep often referred to himself as a productive junkie, flaunting his habits in his music and on social media. While he warned fans about the dangers of drug use, he seemed unable to heed his own advice. Tragically, on November 15, 2017, just hours before a scheduled performance in Tucson, Arizona, Peep posted a series of videos on Instagram showing his drug use. He admitted to taking mushrooms, concentrated cannabis, and 6 Xanax pills, even attempting to swallow another pill on camera. In his final video, he shook a prescription bottle, seemingly full of pills, marking the last time fans saw him alive. 5 hours later, Peep's manager found him unresponsive on the tour bus. Emergency services were called, but by then, it was too late. The toxicology report revealed a mix of drugs in his system, including fentanyl and Xanax. Fans and observers criticized his management, arguing that if someone had checked on him sooner, he might have been saved. In the end, Lil Peep's story became a grim reminder of the toll that fame, mental illness, and drug addiction can take, leaving his fans to mourn the loss of an artist who had so much more to give. Lil Peep's passing shook the industry, and a toxicology report revealed traces of marijuana, cocaine, and tramadol in his system. Weeks later, his mother, Lisa Womack, filed a wrongful death lawsuit against his management group FAE, claiming they encouraged his drug use despite knowing his struggles. That lawsuit never went to trial. It was settled quietly out of court. While Lil Peep's overdose unfolded away from public view, another rapper, Big Scar, met his tragic end in a way that fans witnessed firsthand. Big Scar, born Alexander Woods on April 7, 2000, grew up in the tough Magnolia community of South Memphis. One of 9 children, he lived with his grandmother until her death when he was just 13. 3 years later, a car accident left him with facial scars, inspiring the name Big Scar. Though he didn't always have rap on his radar, a friend named Baby K nudged him toward the mic. By 2019, Scar had dropped his first track, Make a Play, and saw it rack up thousands of YouTube views. Just a year later, he signed with Gucci Mane's 1017 Records under Atlantic and made waves on their compilation album, Gucci Mane Presents So Icy Summer. The album featured notable names like Pooh Shiesty, Fujiano, and Tay Keith. Scar's buzz only grew with his debut mixtape, Big Grim Reaper, which climbed to number 25 on the Billboard 200. His first solo charting project. But even as his career took off, Scar's life behind the scenes was riddled with challenges. In 2020, he was shot in the hip, and the bullet's path to his spine left him requiring extensive surgery. Doctors had to remove his appendix, realign his leg, and he spent weeks in recovery. During this time, he also battled depression and a growing addiction to prescription medication. On the day he passed, Scar went live on Instagram. Viewers saw him slurring his words and struggling to speak coherently. Hours later, after his stream ended, Scar overdosed on prescription drugs at his girlfriend's house. He was just 22 years old. His passing drew eerie parallels to another young rapper, Juice WRL, who also succumbed to an overdose at a similar age. In his final moments, Juice WRL had recorded himself aboard a flight from California to Chicago. Tragically, shortly after landing, he too lost his life, further cementing the devastating toll of substance abuse in the music industry. Jared Anthony Higgins, better known as Juice WRLD, was a Chicago-born artist whose meteoric rise began with his smash hit Lucid Dreams. The single reached number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 and was one of 2018's most streamed tracks. Juice's fame quickly catapulted him into collaborations with Travis Scott on Astroworld, The Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse soundtrack, and even BTS's RM and Suga. He wasn't just climbing the charts, he was becoming a global phenomenon. Yet, behind the hits, Juice WRL was locked in a battle with addiction and mental health struggles. He often spoke candidly about his use of drugs and his struggles with anxiety and depression. His mother later confirmed he had been planning to enter rehab, but tragedy struck before he could get the help he needed. On December 8, 2019, just 6 days after his 21st birthday, Juice and his entourage boarded a private flight to Chicago. Unbeknownst to them, federal authorities had been tipped off about contraband on the plane, rumored to be by the pilot. When the plane landed at Midway Airport, federal agents were waiting. What happened next remains murky, but reports suggest that upon learning of the impending search, Juice WRL ingested multiple Percocet pills in an attempt to hide them. Shortly afterward, he began to suffer a seizure and collapsed. He was rushed to Advocate Christ Medical Center in Oak Lawn, Illinois, where he briefly regained consciousness before passing away. The coroner's report confirmed that Juice WRL died of an overdose on oxycodone and codeine. The subsequent search revealed an alarming amount of contraband. Over 70 pounds of marijuana, 6 bottles of prescription codeine cough syrup, 3 firearms, including a high-capacity magazine loaded with metal-piercing bullets, and other prohibited items. His death shocked fans and the music industry alike, not only for its suddenness, but also because Juice had openly vowed to confront his demons and find a path to recovery. Instead, He became another heartbreaking reminder of the toll that addiction and mental health struggles can take, no matter how bright the star. Moving on from Juice's story, we turn to the shocking case of South African rapper AKA, who was gunned down after spending the evening enjoying a meal with friends. Born Kiernan Jared Forbes on January 28, 1988, AKA came from a tough upbringing in the gang-riddled area of Mitchell's Plain in Cape Town. Despite his rough start, he eventually moved to Johannesburg with his mother, where he attended a prestigious school and began pursuing his music career. Little did anyone know that years later, his life would come to a violent end. After moving to Johannesburg, AKA enrolled at St. John's College, a prestigious South African school. It was there that he began his music career as part of the hip-hop crew Entity, alongside Zuibofu Walsh and Lala McKenna. When the group disbanded, AKA transitioned to producing for established artists like Pro Kid and Kuli Chana. He quickly built his name and, as time went on, collaborated with African superstars including Burna Boy, Dales, Nasty C, and Kwesta, eventually solidifying his spot at the top of South Africa's hip-hop scene. Outside of music, AKA's personal life often took center stage in the media. His high-profile romances frequently made headlines, including his relationship with DJ Zinhle. The two had a daughter together before eventually splitting up. In 2021, tragedy struck when his fiancée, Anele Tembe, fell to her death from a Cape Town hotel balcony. While initial reports suggested suicide, her father, Moses Tembe, disputed these claims at her funeral. In response, AKA released the heartfelt single Tears Run Dry in Anele's memory. However, controversy swirled when videos emerged showing violent altercations between the two. AKA denied allegations of abuse, and prosecutors ultimately did not file charges against him. Despite the tumult, AKA's career continued to thrive until that fateful night on February 10, 2023. While enjoying drinks at Wish on Florida, a restaurant in Durban, he was captured on camera laughing and chatting with friends. It would be the last time anyone saw him alive. Moments later, CCTV footage showed a man in a white sweater and hat approach him outside the restaurant. Without warning, the man pulled out a gun and shot AKA twice in the head at close range. The rapper died instantly, as did his longtime friend Tebelo Tibbs Motsoan, who was with him. In the aftermath, 5 suspects were arrested, but no convictions have been made. The true mastermind behind AKA's murder remains unknown. This lack of resolution stands in stark contrast to the swift apprehension of L.A. Capone's killer. Unlike AKA's case, which remains mired in mystery, Leonard Anderson, better known as L.A. Capone, was gunned down in Chicago in an incident that saw the perpetrator caught soon after. Born on September 18, 1996, Louisiana Capone spent his early years in Southside Chicago before moving to Atlanta, Georgia, with his father during middle school. After his father's death in 2009, Louisiana Capone moved back to Chicago and quickly reconnected with his childhood friends, including Lil Durk. He started appearing in Durk's music videos and became a familiar face within the city's drill scene. Like Chief Keef and Durk, Louisiana Capone was aligned with the Black Disciples and often appeared in videos alongside Rondo No. 9 and his stepbrother C-Dye, proudly repping GDK, Gangster Disciples Killers, slang. This was a clear nod to their affiliation, as the GDs were long-standing rivals of the Black Disciples. In early 2012, Louisiana Capone made his debut in King Bruce and Rondo No. 9's track, We Grimy, marking the first time he appeared on a recorded song. 8 months later, he dropped his first solo music video on YouTube, titled Work, which started to gain traction. L.A. Capone's gritty lyricism and raw presence caught attention, and it seemed he was poised to carve out a name for himself in the industry. Unfortunately, his career was cut short just as it was starting to take off. On September 26, 2013, Louisiana Capone spent the afternoon at a local studio. Around 6 p.m., he stepped outside, reportedly to meet up with his girlfriend down the block. While walking through an alley near 70th Street and Stony Island Avenue, an assailant approached and fired 4 shots, hitting him in the back and thigh. He collapsed at the scene. The shooting left his friends and fans in shock. Lil Durk even tweeted his prayers for Capone's recovery, only to later learn that his injuries were fatal. Speculation about who carried out the killing ran rampant. Capone's gang had been involved in multiple feuds, and his track Play for Keeps had included lyrics dissing rival gang members, which only added fuel to the fire. Among those suspected were members of 051 Young Money, a notorious crew known for their violent beefs. The rumors gained weight when, on July 23, 2014, Michael Mays, aka Rockhead, came forward while detained in Cook County Jail. Mays, an 051 Young Money member, provided detectives with information that connected his gang to L.A. Capone's murder. While the full story might never be publicly confirmed, the loss of L.A. Capone remains a haunting reminder of how the streets and music scene often collided in Chicago's drill era. His potential was undeniable, but his life ended far too soon, leaving fans and friends to wonder what could have been. The case took a grim turn when Michael Mays, aka Rockhead, decided to cooperate with authorities. He named Saki Hardy Johnson, aka Lil Mick, as the shooter, tying Lil Mick to the 051 Young Money crew. Rockhead also confessed to his own role in L.A. Capone's killing. With his testimony, police moved in and arrested Lil Mick, as well as a third suspect, Miko Buchanan, from a gang known as the Met Boys. Miko Buchanan received a 45-year sentence, while Rockhead, the informant, was handed 21 years. The shooter, Lil Mick, was given the harshest punishment, 60 years in prison. But the story didn't end there. In 2022, Lil Mick filed an appeal that ultimately reduced his sentence, meaning he'll be out far sooner than expected. The entire saga serves as a reminder of how quickly lives can unravel in the world of street beefs and gang rivalries. Sadly, this cycle of violence wasn't limited to Chicago. Take the murder of Pop Smoke, for example. The rising Brooklyn rapper, born Bashar Baraka Jackson, had only begun to make his mark on the industry when his life was tragically cut short. Just hours before his death, Pop Smoke was captured on video delivering what would become one of his final verses. Later that night, a fatal mistake would seal his fate. At around 2 a.m. on February 19, 2020, a black BMW pulled up near the Hollywood Hills home that Pop Smoke was renting. The car briefly stopped, circled back, and then parked. A man exited, crept around the property, and left shortly afterward. Then, an Infiniti arrived with its lights off. 4 masked and hooded individuals got out and broke into the house. It's believed that Pop Smoke was in the shower when he heard the commotion. He tried to fend off the attackers, but the confrontation turned deadly. 10 minutes later, security cameras captured 3 of the intruders rushing back to the car. The 4th calmly walked out the front door, carrying a purse and a gun. Pop Smoke had been shot, and the rising star's promising future was stolen in an instant. It was a senseless tragedy. Reports indicated that a group of teenagers carried out the robbery that ended Pop Smoke's life. The LAPD received a tip from someone on the East Coast about the home invasion. 6 minutes later, officers arrived to find Pop lying in a pool of blood, shot multiple times. He was rushed to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, but despite their efforts, the young rapper was pronounced dead just hours later. He was only 20 years old. The most shocking twist? His own social media posts may have played a crucial role in his murder. Initially, authorities suspected gang connections due to Pop Smoke's ties to the Crips. However, earlier that day, he and his friend Mike D had posted photos flaunting cash, luxury items, and designer bags. Unfortunately, one of these posts included part of the house's address. Worse still, Pop's Instagram story featured the same address in full, printed on a delivery package. These seemingly harmless posts gave the attackers all the information they needed. On July 9, 2023, the police arrested a mix of adults and minors for their roles in the crime. One adult faced a murder charge with special circumstances for killing during a robbery, while another individual was charged with attempted murder. Despite these arrests, no verdict or sentence can reverse the tragedy of losing Pop Smoke. His untimely death left a void in the hip-hop world, but his music and influence continue to resonate with fans everywhere. Another major loss came on November 17, 2021, when young Dolph, born Adolph Robert Thornton Jr., was killed in Memphis. Known for his dedication to his hometown, Dolph was fatally shot while visiting Makeda's homemade butter cookies. a local spot he frequented whenever he returned home. His death didn't just mark the end of a remarkable career, it sent shockwaves throughout the music industry. Young Dolph had been a force in the rap game from the start. Born on July 27, 1985, his big break came in 2015 with his feature on OT Genesis's hit single Cut It, which peaked at number 35 on the Billboard Hot 100. The following year, Dolph released his debut album, King of Memphis, which reached number 9 on the Billboard 200, cementing his place as one of hip-hop's most promising stars. His murder, like Pop Smoke's, was a reminder of how deeply violence continues to impact the lives and careers of talented artists. Young Dolph's relentless work ethic propelled him forward, project after project, with each release gaining more attention. Signed to his own label, Paper Route Empire, he reached new heights in 2020 with his album Rich Slave, debuting at number 4 on the Billboard 200, his highest charting project to date. Dolph's grind was undeniable, and he was reaping the rewards of his success. But not everyone was happy to see him shine. In September 2017, young Dolph was shot outside a retail store in Hollywood, leaving him critically injured. He spent 2 weeks in the hospital recovering from 3 gunshot wounds. Many believed it was retaliation for his earlier album Bulletproof, released that same year. The project's title and lyrics seemed to strike a nerve with certain individuals, and some suspected that his words had provoked this violent response. Years later, tragedy struck again. On November 17, 2021, a fan captured Dolph on video filling up at a gas station. Shortly after, another fan took a photo of him entering Makeda's homemade butter cookies, a local bakery he regularly visited when he was in Memphis. Sadly, those 2 moments became the last recordings of the beloved rapper. Just minutes after stepping inside the bakery, Dolph was ambushed by 2 shooters in a white Mercedes. They opened fire, killing him on the spot. Crowds quickly gathered at the scene, mourning the loss of a hometown hero who had always given back to his community. Young Dolph was known for his generosity and dedication to uplifting others. He consistently contributed to charity, handed out turkeys on Thanksgiving, and even donated $20,000 to 2 Duke University baristas who lost their jobs after playing his track, Get Paid. Despite his immense success and the love he received from fans, he became the victim of a senseless act of violence, cutting his life and career far too short. Another rap legend taken before his time was Tupac Shakur. In what would become some of the last video footage ever recorded of him, Tupac was seen getting into a fight. An altercation many believe ultimately led to his murder. However, the seeds of that fateful night were planted years earlier. In November 1994, Tupac was ambushed and shot multiple times during a robbery in the lobby of a Manhattan recording studio. At the time, he was working on his seminal album, Me Against the World. In the aftermath, Tupac openly accused Puff Daddy and Biggie Smalls of orchestrating the attack. Though the truth of those allegations was never confirmed, his accusations sparked a bitter feud that would come to define the 1990s hip-hop landscape. As Tupac aligned himself with Death Row Records in Los Angeles, the rivalry between the East Coast and West Coast rap scenes reached a boiling point, setting the stage for one of the most infamous conflicts in music history. That night, it all started well enough. Tupac and his entourage were caught on camera at the MGM Grand, where they got into an altercation with a known Crip before the Mike Tyson fight. Pac was seen throwing punches until security stepped in. Afterwards, he changed clothes and headed out with Suge Knight, intending to hit Club 662 for a charity event, but he never arrived. While they were cruising down the Las Vegas Strip in a black BMW, a white Cadillac pulled up next to them. The shooter, sitting in the back seat, leaned out and fired a volley of shots from a .40 Glock. Tupac was hit 4 times, in the chest, arm, thigh, and lung. Bullet fragments grazed Suge Knight's head as well, though he managed to drive a mile further down the road before paramedics arrived. Tupac was rushed to the hospital, but a few days later, his injuries proved fatal. The world lost one of the most influential voices in hip-hop history, and the mystery surrounding his killer only deepened the wound. Years later, another devastating loss struck the hip-hop community. On November 1st, 2022, after a private party at 810 Billiards and Bowling in Houston's Green Street, Takeoff's life was tragically cut short. Born Kersnik Kari Ball on June 18, 1994, Takeoff grew up in Lawrenceville, Georgia, raised by his mother. He started experimenting with beats in 7th grade, but didn't find his stride until 2011. That year, he teamed up with his uncle Quavo and cousin Offset to form the legendary rap group Migos. Migos broke onto the scene in 2013 with their hit Versace, which got an extra boost when Drake jumped on the remix. They refined their sound with a string of successful mixtapes and high-profile collaborations with artists like Gucci Mane and Justin Bieber. By 2015, Migos dropped their debut album, Young Rich Nation, and continued their ascent. Their 2017 album Culture and its breakout single Bad and Boujee earned them 2 Grammy nominations, solidifying their status as hip-hop royalty. Takeoff's untimely death was not only heartbreaking for fans and fellow artists, but it also served as another painful reminder of how quickly we can lose such extraordinary talent. In 2018, Migos' rise to superstardom reached another milestone when they received the ASCAP Vanguard Award for their hit Motorsport, a massive collaboration featuring Cardi B and Nicki Minaj. But while their accolades continued to pile up, storm clouds began to gather. In 2020, Takeoff faced a serious civil lawsuit alleging sexual battery and assault. Although the case had the potential to be prosecuted, it never reached a courtroom. Tragically, before any legal resolution could be found, Takeoff's life was cut short. On that fateful night, roughly 40 people stood outside the bowling alley after a party. Without warning, a fight erupted near the 3rd-floor entrance, quickly escalating into gunfire. In the chaos, stray bullets struck Takeoff. A nearby nurse rushed to the scene after hearing the shots. She found him lying in a pool of blood and checked for a pulse, but it was too late. Medics arrived, but Takeoff had already passed away. Footage from the aftermath revealed Quavo wearing an orange shirt standing nearby. Those around Takeoff tried to move him at first, but then laid him back down, with Quavo shouting for help in a desperate scene of confusion and grief. Adding to the tragedy were Takeoff's final moments on social media. Earlier that day, he had posted a photo of himself smoking, accompanied by the song Stop Breathing by Playboi Carti. The eerie timing of the post fueled conspiracy theories and left fans questioning whether his death was a tragic accident or something more sinister. In the end, Takeoff's loss was a devastating blow to the music community, robbing the world of a uniquely talented artist. Despite his untimely death, his contributions to Migos' legacy and the influence of their music will continue to resonate for years to come.